So the two things that have helped me deal with the end times are replacing the news with English period piece dramas, and also spending a lot of time learning cool open chord voicings. So today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite open chord voicings that are super pretty, that are going to be incredibly easy to remember and are actually easier to play than other chords that you already know. Alright, so this is going to be in the key of E, E for end times, right here. And we're going to essentially play a chord scale in the key of E. Now, I did another video just talking about how you can always find these different notes. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one shape just to begin with as a refresher, and then use them to kind of play a representative of every chord in the E major chord scale. All right, so basically, the super quick run-through way is going to be the one chord is E major, 2 F sharp minor, G sharp minor is 3, A major 4, B major 5, C sharp minor 6, then we have G kind of half diminished there, and that gets us back to E. Right? Okay, so don't worry if you don't know all that, because it's actually a lot easier to play it the way that we're going to do it, and we're going to use a lot of the open strings to help us out. All right? Now, the one thing that I do demand you know is going to be how to play the major scale on one string, because that's going to be really the foundation for quickly switching between these chord voicings over and over again. All right? It's going to sound like this. And again, it's super easy to remember. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. A whole step being 2 frets, half step being 1 fret. Again, this is a really great practical way to use the major scale and why you need to know this stuff in the first place, right? Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Again, when you start open, this is the key of E, so open E, a whole step from there, it's gonna be right there, 2nd fret. Another whole step, whole, whole, half, so open 2, 4, 5, whole, 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 half. 7, 9, 11, 12, all right? Now, the first way that I played all the chords is I used each one of these notes as a root note to build a chord, okay? The first one is major, 2nd minor, 3rd minor, 4th major, 5th major, 6th minor, 7 diminished, back home, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to keep this open E on the low string and the open high E string and B string to ring out over all these chords, okay? So, again, probably already know E major, just 2nd fret on the A string, 2nd fret on the D string with your ring finger, pointer finger, 1st fret on the G string. All right, but what I'm going to do is change the voicing, the fingers you use to this, so you're not using your pointer finger. So it's going to go ring, pinky, middle, 2A, 2D, 1G. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to locate the other major chords in this key. E, A, right? The 5th fret is where your pointer finger would be, but we're not going to use it to get this open kind of A major-ish sound, right? Now again, I'm going to refer to these chords by the names as if we were to bar them, but really, technically they might have different names, which we're going to talk about in a second. But, so here's A major, and then here's B major's spot with the open E strings ringing out, okay? So right off the bat, we have some pretty cool sounding open chords. We have the 1 chord in the key of E, to 4, to 5, all right? Now, those are just things that we can do on the major chords. The minor chords are just a quick variation, and in fact, I'll do it in the same spot, okay? So we have this A major-ish open chord, right? Where my ring finger is on the 7th fret of the A string, my pinky's on 7D, and my pointer, or my middle finger is on 6G right here. All you have to do is swap your middle finger out with your pointer finger. And this is going to take the basis of this chord from major to minor, okay? Now you can use this on A spot if you want to just kind of throw everything out of whack, like major. Okay? But we're actually going to use this shape in the positions on the other root notes that we talked about. Okay, so remember, here's open E major, and then a whole step from there is going to be that 2nd fret. This note right here is an F sharp. So F sharp minor would be the chord to use, where you bar the 2nd fret and you still have 4A and 4D. That's kind of a tough one to play, right? To get tone out of all 6 strings there with that bar chord. So we're just going to actually use that shape, but with the pointer finger instead of the middle finger here, and get this open sounding spot where the F sharp minor chord was, all right? Then we're gonna move it a whole step from here. So again, whole step, Now this chord is actually kind of the chord that even launched this entire video idea for me, because this right here would be the G sharp minor chord spot, right? But when we take that root note away here and play this, this is really just an E major 7 chord, okay? Like, let's really quickly just go through the notes we're playing here. We have an E right here, a D sharp, okay? So right there, that's the major 7 interval. It's always easy to find out what the 7th note in any scale is because you just go backwards a half step. So in the key of E, D sharp is the guy you're looking for, right? So you have E, D sharp, right here, right here. That's a G sharp, right? So that's the major 3rd of E to make it a major chord. And then we have the B right here with your pointer finger, which is also the same as the open B string and then high E. So E, G sharp, B, and a D sharp are a great way to make a major 7 chord. And honestly, this is a really great voicing of the E major 7 chord because, in my opinion, there's not a voicing in this spot that I really love as far as a major 7 chord goes. And if you've watched this channel at all, you know that I love playing major 7 chords. And usually my go-to E major 7 chord is going to be something like this, where I root it on the 7th fret of the A string. But it's always good to find something a little closer, right? Now what you could do is you could maybe play something like this, right here where I have open E, 2A, 1D, 1G. You get the major 7 chord that way. I don't know, there's something a little uncomfortable to me about having the 1st fret on the D and G string there. I could always put it on top, grab that D sharp here on the 4th fret of the B string, but that right there, that's a reach, right? That's tough, right? That's gonna put some wear and tear on your pinky, and you're gonna need that for foraging for food in the end times, right? So I don't love that, but this one right here, I think is a really great E major 7 chord voicing. Again, we're using it in the spot of maybe where a G minor chord is. Great example of the difference between a closed triad minor chord and then getting kind of the essence of where that chord sits in a scale, but opening it up a little bit and actually changing the name of the chord. But again, the name doesn't really matter so much as how it sounds, right? So we can do that where I'm thinking of my root note lined up with the 2nd fret and the 4th fret. And then we have our 2 major chords back to back, right? So home key, whole, half, whole, right? So here's our next minor chord. This would be this guy right here. If you barred the 9th fret, this is a C sharp minor chord. But again, we're using this minor shape. Again, major shape, minor shape. We can make a major. Doesn't sound great. Minor. And then another thing that you could do is you could use that last one as another minor chord. I think the best way to do this would be the G sharp minor 7 flat 5 or diminished chord, right? So there's our root note. You have this kind of uncomfortable voicing to get that chord if you want to fulfill the scale right there. I think a better way to do that is to maybe think of a root note as its flat 5, which is just the 12th fret on the A string, and then maybe something like this. I think this is really kind of pretty as a replacement for the diminished chord, which is middle finger on 12A, ring finger on 13D, pointer finger on 11G. And that'll take you back home. Okay, so we're going to run through them all, and then we're going to talk about the high E string really quick. So, running through all of them, we got the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay? Now, another thing that I really like to do is take that high E string and add some kind of melody on it. And my favorite chord in any key is going to be the 4 chord as a major 7 chord. So in this key, we're going to talk about the A major 7 chord, right? A for apocalypse. And again, we have this open voicing here, right? Now, what is the major 7 note that you need in the key of A? Remember that trick. You just go back a half step from the root note. Okay, so that would be a G sharp, comes right before A. And even though this isn't the key they were thinking in, the 4 chord is always going to have a major 7 chord, just like the 1 chord does in any key. If that doesn't make any sense to you, my masterclass that I did with Justin about just kind of like unlocking the entire fretboard is on super sale for the first 100 people to click this link in the description. So make sure to check that out because it goes more in depth into stuff like that and kind of seeing the fretboard in different patterns and stuff. But just a quick tip is, if you never need to find the 7th note of any major scale, just go back one from the root note, right? So, the low E string and the high E string are the same notes, right? So here's an A, here's an A. So if I want to add that major 7 vibe to it, I just go down a note to get me a G sharp, right? And now this reach right here isn't that bad. And that's a really pretty open chord major 7 voicing, especially when you kind of pair it with having this fret open up to the high E string, right? Because again, the E note is also in an A major chord, A, C sharp, and an E. So I think that's a really pretty kind of melodic thing that you could do. You could also take the A, and then we can go right to G sharp minor spot or an E major 7. So again, the names don't matter so much as compared to the sound. It's something that I can't really stress enough, because especially on a guitar where there's only 6 strings most of the time that you're working with, a lot of the names are like kind of implied, like an A major 9 chord. Usually that's really an A add 9, or you're leaving the 5th out, so you're leaving stuff up. So sometimes the names are actually kind of open to contextual interpretation. That's why I don't get hung up on the names, even though it's a great thing to know how chord building works. But that right there is like a really cool A to E substitution, in fact, right? So whenever you see any chord progression with like an A major and an E major in there, and you just want to spice it up a little bit, you can always think of this to this, E major 7. So even if it's something that's totally kind of a different vibe that you just want to switch up, right? Like maybe like a B to an A to an E. Maybe you can switch that. Let's switch that E major up to a. And then maybe the next time you can go back to the regular E, just to kind of give a little bit of a variety of something. Or you can use all of them. B, A, E major 7, back, okay? So aside from just kind of using these to string together these beautiful open chords that are going to get you through the end times, you can actually use these as just quick substitutions for maybe chord progressions that are a little less open, that just need a little bit of a different vibe, okay? So again, you can use these in other keys. The nice thing about this key is that the B and the E are going to be the open strings for pretty much all the chord voicings that we did, and those are 2 very important notes in that key. If we were to open up the G string, for instance, that would actually kind of sound a little troubling, like totally changes the vibe. I like it, I still dig it, right? If we just kind of take that major, sounds cool, but it's totally a different vibe. I think it sounds really great. In fact, a lot of the Emeryld Ryders songs kind of have stuff like that, but it's less pretty in my estimation of beauty, which may be different than yours, but that's okay, because it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, just a few quick tips. Again, my favorite part of this is that A major 7 to an E. If I have anything, just take that with you, and it'll be a 14-minute video well watched. So thanks for checking it out. Make sure you check out the masterclass while it's still on sale. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon.